Hello everybody. Today I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Ali Bakir, who is a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and assistant professor at Qatar University. And his main research area is Turkish foreign policy, Turkish-Arab relations, and that's what we're going to discuss today. Dr. Ali Bakir, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you for hosting me.
And today we are attending the conference dedicated to Islamophobia. So before moving to the subject of Turkish-Arab relations, I would like to ask you to share with you your reflections about this conference, about the importance of fighting against Islamophobia.
I think that, as you may know very well, Islamophobia is becoming a global phenomenon, unfortunately. It exists today in places where there are no Muslims, or maybe where Muslims are minority, or even in places where Muslims are majority. So for Azerbaijan to host such big conference on countering Islamophobia, in parallel with commemorating the United Nations first day ever to combating Islamophobia, I think is very critical and very important. I think the distinguished participants tackled very sensitive issues, and usually these kind of topics are not discussed or addressed properly in the West because it's not a priority. And actually, whether it's East or West, this phenomena is becoming very problematic. The Muslims are, around 1.4 billion population. So I think that for a country like Azerbaijan to host this conference in this time with such participants from around the world, including also Muslims and Christian and Jewish scholars, is very important and very critical. And I hope that this initiative will be sustained in the future and even deepened, because one of the conference's themes is to provide a platform for the scholars and experts to discuss such topics which are usually neglected, as I said, elsewhere, to try to really find ways to address this problem, and also to raise awareness in the West, in Europe, in the US, and also in East, in India, in China, where Muslims are suffering under pressure because of the rising Islamophobia. So I think that Baku did very well, and I hope that we see this conference also sustained in the coming years.
Thank you. The general view is that over the past couple of years, there have been some positive developments, dynamics in Turkish-Arab relations in general, and they have improved the Turkish position within the wider region. I would like you to deliberate on what those positive dynamics are and how have they impacted the Turkish position.
You're definitely right, and there have been a kind of regional de-escalation first, and then positive developments, and these positive developments are not only related to Turkey and the Arab countries, Turkey and the Gulf, they are even on the wider regional area. They mainly happened as a result of the rise of Biden administration in the US and Al-Ula agreement between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, which unlocked several positive dynamics. And as a result of this, we witnessed later, of course, the COVID pandemic, which exhausted the regional countries economically. So there was a need to kind of de-escalate and try to open a new page between these countries. And I think as a result of this, the relations between Turkey and UAE, Turkey and Saudi Arabia improved significantly in the last at least 1 year, a couple of years, I would say. And in parallel of this, there were also dynamics related to other countries. For example, relations between Egypt and Qatar improved significantly. UAE established relations with Israel, and Saudi Arabia with Iran, Iran with UAE. So there have been a lot of positive regional dynamics, if I may say. But and this is quite unique and good development for the country and for the regional countries. But yeah, we don't know if this will be sustained or not.
That was what I was about to ask. I mean,
yes.
Those positive dynamics are really very good, and they're very confidence-inducing. But do you believe that they are sustainable? They will last for a long time?
Well, The Middle East is one of the most volatile and unstable regions in the world, unfortunately. This means that stability is it's an exception, not the rule. But in this case, we have 2 years of positive developments, 2 years of de-escalation, 2 years of rapprochement and normalization between several countries, and we hope that because of the positive outcomes coming from these positive developments, we hope that this kind of normalization lasts. But in my opinion, it depends on several variables, internal and interregional and also international dynamics, including the US presidential elections in 2014 and also the Turkish elections, which are very critical, obviously, and important. I think that depending on the US elections and whether we will see Trump-alike president coming again to the administration, or maybe Biden will win again. It depends on who will be the president, because the region is very much influenced by the developments in the US concerning the foreign policy. So depending on these developments, we can see positive or negative trends in the coming period. But we hope that this positive trend sustain and continue, of course.
So you have reflected upon how Turkish position has changed, and you reflect upon those positive dynamics. And what about the Turkish-Greek relations? Because they are also very important to the wider Turkish foreign policy objectives.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Turkish-Greek relations during the last years have been witnessing negative developments, and the relations were really tense between the two countries, given the Greek position in the Eastern Mediterranean and the provocative foreign policy when it comes to lobbying against Turkey in Europe, in the US, and also in the Arab world. So relations have been unfortunately going down. But I guess after the unfortunate earthquake in Turkey, this opened a window of communication between Greece and Turkey, and disaster diplomacy also left positive impacts, if I may say, on the relation between Greece and Turkey, because the Greeks sent rescue teams. They tried to help and support. The Greek foreign minister was the first European foreign minister to visit Turkey. But again, I mean, disaster diplomacy, of course, important and opens window of opportunity for better relations, but both parties need to build on it in order to sustain the positive development and try to get positive outcomes out of it. So whether this will happen or not will depend also on the Greek side, because obviously the Greeks depend too much on the Europeans to block any kind of positive development in Eastern Mediterranean. And the Eastern Mediterranean is very critical, very important for Turkey, not only on the political level, but also on the economic and national security level. So I think that this is a critical issue. It is not impossible to solve it. It just needs some flexibility from the European side, because as we very well known, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a very pragmatic guy, and he has been promoting the idea of the need for all countries in the Eastern Mediterranean to share equally and in a just way the riches in the region. But unfortunately, some parties, including the Greece, have been resisting this idea and have been following maximalist foreign policy, if I may say, concerning the Eastern Mediterranean issue. But we hope that both can build on the disaster diplomacy and try to, reach an agreement.
Sure. Well, Turkey is a rising power. It's a significant player in the wider region. So you reflect upon the Middle East part and also the relation with Greece. And also you mentioned disaster diplomacy whilst reflecting on the Turkish-Greek dynamics. The Turkish-Armenian relations probably are not as important as other subjects which we have discussed today. Because after the earthquake, there were a couple of attempts. Armenian side sent a rescue team, yes. And there was a hope that this normalization between Turkey and Armenia would be on the positive path. Do you think that any expectation could be generated from that path as well?
Well, given the empirical evidence concerning disaster diplomacy, usually the outcomes of this diplomacy doesn't last too much, unfortunately. But we hope that in this case, in this particular case, relations with Greece, relations with Armenia, relations with Egypt can sustain in a positive manner, in a positive environment. I know that from the Turkish perspective, it's very important for Armenia to be part of the positive regional developments and also the economic plans for the region. However, this depends also on Armenians' will to be part of this economic plan or not. I mean, part of the Armenians obviously have been encouraging such developments, but also the other part has been resisting, and they has been calling for reoccupying Azerbaijani lands. The Armenian lobby has been unfortunately playing an unconstructive role, trying to push forward to resist any kind of normalization between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Armenia and Turkey. But again, from Turkish perspective, it's very important for Armenia as a neighbor of Turkey to be part of any future plans, whether it is related to geopolitics, economy, or politics. And I think that now there is, given the disaster diplomacy and also the developments concerning Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I think that Armenians should think rationally and should follow their interests, which actually lies in a better relation with Azerbaijan and Turkey in this sense. Relying on Russia and Iran is not a smart way to try to...
Many commentators say that if Armenia wants to be a prosperous, self-sufficient, economically prosperous nation, it needs to have good relations with Azerbaijan, so there must be a peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and also the normalization between Turkey and Armenia should reach its logical end, and those two things are absolutely critical. So that's the reason why when we talk about Turkish-Armenian normalization, we always say that it's inextricably connected with Azerbaijani-Armenian developments.
Definitely, and also the opposite is right, so it needs the will of the two parties to get involved in such issue. Obviously, Azerbaijan and Turkey is ready to extend this offer and extend their hand for cooperation, long-term cooperation, and open their borders. And at the end of the day, it is up to the Armenians to take this initiative or oppose it. And we hope they make the right choice, of course.
Very much hope so. And I also would like you to comment on the Turkish-Iranian relations. There's two nations, Turkey and Iran. They are historic rivals. They played an important role within the historic process. What is the current situation there? How do you see this rivalry? What's happening there?
Relations between Turkey and Iran is very complicated. As you said, the two players have been rivals for centuries. Unfortunately, Iran has been pursuing inconstructive foreign policy in the region, banking on supporting militias, proxies, expanding its militias activities in the region directly around Iran, and also reaching to Eastern Mediterranean through Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and also down to the Gulf in Bahrain and other places. So, and Yemen, of course. So the Iranian foreign policies are not perceived in a good way in the region in general, and in order for Iran also to try to send a credible message that it needs peace and it's ready to make peace with its neighbors, I think that they should take credible steps on the ground. And two of the places where Turkey and Iran have friction is Syria and Iraq, and of course Iran and Saudi Arabia, the Yemen is a test for their normalization. I think that the Iranians have a chance right now to prove that they are willing to do peace and to open up on their neighbors. I think that they should take this initiative. It's in their hands. They are not going to lose anything. But again, when it comes to Iran's internal dynamics and foreign policy, things are very complicated and mostly related to the IRGC and the supreme leader. And we hope also they do the right step. I mean, they can pull out their militias from Syria. They can stop supporting the Houthis in Yemen, and I think that this will send strong messages to regional heavyweights and also international observers and powers who are watching Iran, trying also to put pressure on it, that no, Iran wants to be a normal state in the region. Let's hope this what will happen, but
there have been some calls in the West that IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, should be designated as a terrorist organization, and not everybody thinks in the same fashion. Some people believe it's not the right course of action. Some believe it is indeed the right course of action. It must be pursued.
Well, I think that according to my humble knowledge, it is already designated as terrorist
but
organization.
not by everybody.
In the US and also in the EU. Lately, they have been pushing for this option, and from my own perspective, also I see them as a very destabilizing force in the region, and they deserve to be sanctions, and more pressure should be put on them, because usually there have been an argument that if we just don't put pressure on them, this will send positive message for them, and maybe this will convince them that dialogue and negotiation is a better way to reach a common outcome. But we've been witnessing this trend for more than 3 decades, and the outcomes, unfortunately, have been very negative in the region. So I think that in order to push Iran to the table, more sanctions should be put on the IRGC, and firm messages should be sent to Iranians. And at the end of the day, as we said before, I mean, Iran's neighbors are very much welcoming Iranian positive step if the Iranians are willing to do so. But the way that the Iranians have been taking some regional actions, destabilizing actions, malicious activities, and very poisonous foreign policy is isolating Iran from its neighborhood. And we have seen this, for example, not only in Syria and the Arab world, not only in the Gulf region, but also in Central Asia and Caucasus, where Iranian foreign policies were very poisonous and destabilizing. And the Iranians also have a chance right now to join, as we spoke earlier, the kind of initiatives by Turkey and Azerbaijan to open up the region economically and to normalize relations between the countries of the region for the stability and prosperity of the nations of this region, the people of this region, and also the governments. But again, the Iranians have been choosing the harder option for them, unfortunately, and we hope we see a change, since there have been a couple of positive developments between Iran and Saudi Arabia during the last week. So we hope that such development also sustain and reflect on other issues related to Azerbaijan, related to Turkey, related to Afghanistan. And
we very much hope so. But what is absolutely the case now is that Azerbaijani-Iranian relations are at their lowest ebb. They've never been so bad over the past 30 or more than 30 years. And there have been many challenges over the past couple of years, in particular after the Second Karabakh War, which took place in 2020. But the general view is that Azerbaijan is trying to be more assertive in the region, trying to be even a greater power, and Iran doesn't like it. Iran wants to curb the Azerbaijani influence. And the recent attack which took place on the 27th of January, I referred to the lethal attack against the Azerbaijani embassy in Tehran, was particularly poisonous and toxic in terms of affecting the Iranian-Azerbaijani relations. Do you believe that Iran will ultimately come to the terms with the fact that Azerbaijan is an independent nation with a clear foreign policy agenda, and that this country must be respected.
I hope so. I hope so. Unfortunately, as you very much rightly described, the Iranian foreign policies, until now, we don't see such an initiative. But at the end of the day, the Iranians have to decide whether they want to live peacefully with their neighbors and to share them prosperity and stability, or they would like to destabilize the region, and also the region would reflect back to them more destabilizing internal situation in Iran, as we are seeing right now. They are facing very much critical internal challenges, and they are trying to just jump above these challenges by provoking regional countries such as Türkiye, Azerbaijan, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. I think that this is not a very smart way. I think that the Iranians should think rationally. We know that they are not comfortable with independent Azerbaijan. They are not comfortable with the more confident Azerbaijan after liberating its territories, because the Iranians obviously supported the Armenian occupation for decades, and this development came against their will and interest, in their opinion. But I stress on one point, which is now there is an opportunity for everyone to share a good plan to move forward with this region on the political, economic, and security level. And what Azerbaijan and Turkey are offering in this regard is very temptive, and it's taking into consideration also the interests of countries like Armenia and Iran. But again, the Iranians, they want the whole share for them, and this is not working. I mean, the current realities are against their will, and they cannot convert it back to 30 years ago, so they have to change their mind after all.
Yeah, Iran has been opposing to many Azerbaijani-initiated plans. One of them is Zangezur Corridor project, which is an overland connection between mainland Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, which is part of Azerbaijan. And Iran does consider Zangezur Corridor project as its red line. It believes that it is against its existential interests. How do you see the future of Zangezur Corridor project? Because there have been some discussions between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but it is very clear that the Iranian objection to this plan is also important. Do you think that they will retract at a later stage?
Yes, you're right. I mean, the Iranians have been trying to convince Armenia not to move forward with this plan. At certain point, they undermined also the progress that have been going on in this issue between Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. But we have to take the realities on the ground into consideration now. Azerbaijan is not weak as it used to be. Turkey also is very rising, powerful ally of Azerbaijan. Most importantly, Azerbaijan is right to defend its sovereignty and independence, and to liberate its lands. So the Iranians are on the wrong side of the history in this sense. I think that the Iranians, although they declared that this corridor is a red line for them, but I don't think they are in a place where they can change realities. They can play a destabilizing role. They can try to disturb the region, but they cannot change it. And the fact that Russia also is involved now in a very hard, very critical war against Ukraine is undermining Iran's position in this fight. So I don't think the Iranians will be so reckless and take suicidal steps in this front, because the situation will probably become worse than the current.
And at the very end, I would like to move back to the main research interest of yours, which is Turkish foreign policy. There's going to be a new election in Turkey, and do you think that its result will determine the Turkish foreign policy in a significant way, or do you think that the fundamentals of the Turkish foreign policy are so entrenched that the leadership change won't affect those objectives and positions?
Well, in normal situations, I would say so, but
Yeah.
I think that we are witnessing a very tough situation in Turkey concerning the next elections, and I think that there is a deep polarization in the society, also in the political elites, and I think that if a change is happened, if the current government sustains, then we are definitely going to see the same positive trends that we used to see. concerning Turkey's foreign policy, more assertive foreign policy, pragmatic foreign policy, autonomous foreign policy, independent foreign policy, and also independent defense policy. On the other hand, if the opposition wins, we already heard some statements concerning some foreign policy issues that would be changed dramatically. But again, statements are something and realities are another. So if they won and they came to power, maybe they will change also their statement. We don't know about this issue. So, we have elections in Turkey, and in Turkey it's not a kingdom, it's a republic. So we don't know the outcomes. 2 months and we will see what will happen after that.
Dr. Ali Bakir, I'm most grateful to you. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your reflections with us.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.